depends on that.
Well,
so,
that's being fixed.
is
Yeah.
that being fixed?
Yep. Okay, I think we're live here. Just waiting for the... Good. Hey, welcome to History Chats this afternoon. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. We're just going to let people get a chance to join. But we will be starting in about 5 minutes. If you're watching after the fact, you can just skip ahead about 4 or 5 minutes, and that'll get you to the history. And if you're joining us live, thanks for joining us live. We'll just kind of hang out for a second here, a couple minutes until we get started. Checking the levels, good. Okay, well, while we're waiting, just kind of get you through the normal business stuff. Thanks to our sponsors, Yankee Bookstore. Oh, I didn't have a chance to fix that. Also for History Speaks, but also History Chats. Yeah. For sponsoring the season, our yearly programming. So big thanks to them. And thanks to, of course, our members of the Historical Society that make it possible for us to do this. So, yeah, thank you to all of them. And if you're interested in becoming a member or a sponsor, feel free to get in touch with us here at the museum. Website marathoncountyhistory.org, or just give us a call. Yeah, it's a great way to support local history, and if you're enjoying this, hopefully it's something that you would want to do. Okay. I guess I can also, while we're waiting, let you know about some stuff that's coming up. On the 18th, which is not this weekend, but the next weekend, so coming up pretty quick here, our History Speaks lecture series returns. Again, digital here. We're going to kind of stick with that for the rest of the year, but this will be Professor Barker will be back once again to talk about this time not a Civil War specific topic, which is his expertise, but talk about the Grand Army of the Republic, the veterans group that comes out of the Union Army. And it's a very fascinating story, and yeah, I'm sure he's going to do a very great job of bringing it to life. So tune in for that. That's at 2 o'clock on Saturday, September 18th. Well, I guess since we're here, I can also just let you know. So Gary this week will be taking us through the First World War monument. That's on the courthouse grounds. Next week, we're going to be taking a look at a different one, which is the Hmong Lao Veterans Memorial. It's a little bit more recent, but also a very interesting story attached to that. So we'll kind of go through that history next week. Yeah. So as always, it's at 12:30 on Thursdays. So a couple good events coming up. Hope you join us for those. Yeah. All right, before I hand this over to Gary, I'll just go through the process here. If anybody has any questions at any point, do feel free to put those into the comment chat section, whatever you're watching on. We will have a top opportunity for some question and answer after the presentation part of this. So please, at any time you feel the need to comment, suggestion, question, whatever, that's there for you. Okay. So with that, I think maybe we'll hand this over to Gary. Let's get the right thing. There we are. Here you go.
Thank you, Ben. Good afternoon, everyone. So today we are talking about monuments. This month we are talking about monuments. And this week we're going to be talking about the World War Monument. Some may be referring to this as the World War I monument. Until World War II happened along, this was the only World War that we had gone through. So this was, in many respects, the World War monument until we established the World War II monument, of course, after World War II. So this is the monument on the courthouse grounds. We'll talk a little bit about that history. It's here on the court, like I said, on the courthouse grounds to to the left of the courthouse, as you come down Grand Avenue, you're coming up Grand Avenue, for instance, it's on your left. You have to make the circle around coming up off Fifth Street, which is a better view, but you do eventually see it because the courthouse is now on your right. It's in the west side of the courthouse, taking a very prominent position here on the courthouse grounds. As I will say a little bit later, it's a good opportunity for you, if at all possible, to get out of your car, walk into it, take a closer look. We'll be talking a little bit about the history of it and all today, but I think it deserves a close look, and I hope that you have an opportunity to take a closer look at this really glorious monument to the sons of Marathon County that were killed in Europe. But a little bit of history. The courthouse grounds is not the first place that this monument was. It was on the old courthouse grounds. Some of you may remember the old courthouse grounds, or what now we call the 400 block. And it was in the northwest corner, on the corner of Scott Street and 3rd Street there in downtown Wausau. And I just want to give you a little bit of a perspective on World War I, because I think we have to sort of frame this monument. World War I, or the Great War, or World War until there was a Second World War. April of 1917, Congress voted to declare war on the Central Powers, which in that day was pretty much Germany. August 1917, the Wisconsin National Guard units become mobilized, and in January and February of 1918, they started to depart for France to join the war effort. Another important date to remember is that following November 11th, 1918, armistice was declared. So that a short period of 1918, but a very key part in the history of the world, really, but also what we want to talk about today in Marathon County. So the war effort. The war effort started right away in 1917. After the declaration of war, we started to gather the troops, the enlistments, the drafts. They were starting to go, and the community was really pretty much just in support of the troops. This is a picture of the troops lining up to go to the local depot for, it's hard to say whether these were draftees or enlistees, but we were now starting to join the war effort. And we must say that the war effort in Marathon County was a difficult one because of the large population of Germans in this community, in this county, made it difficult for a lot of families to, but that's another story. That's a larger story that I don't really want, that I don't have to go into today, but just so that you know that it was difficult war. And this was a world war, and we knew that there was fighting going on in France. This had been going on for a while. After President Wilson declared war, then that meant Marathon County had to start to get involved. And we did. And we started to march our troops to depots throughout Wisconsin, and specifically here in Wausau to the local railroad depot, and start to send our young boys off to war. So they're off to war, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But then great relief happened in November. Like I said, in November of that year, peace was declared. So then a great relief came to this county, and we started now to think about how we were going to, in some way, remember the young people that were killed in France. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So the effort was soon was soon for a memorial. The contract's lettered for the memorial. Dedication next May. Marathon County red granite will be used to build a soldiers monument. So that it didn't take us very long, a couple years, and we realized that not only the returning veterans coming back to Wausau, but the community itself felt very strongly that we had to engage a memorial to our fallen heroes. So the community, county, specifically the veterans of foreign wars, engaged the one Carl Heber of New York to make the statue, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But this was the beginning of that story, of that monument. And this was and I think it's important in the description of this, because I think there was a very, very good description of it in the newspaper that said the memorial as proposed will be a beautiful monument. And then you can read on a little bit. On the face will be an American doughboy in action, the figure being in bronze, and each side will be wings, at the end of which will be smaller shafts of Marathon County granite. And on these will be the bronze tablets bearing the names of all the young men who gave their lives while in the naval, military, or marine service. And then it went on to talk about the cost. So now that we already have a sense of what this monument will be looking like, and again, a reminder of what this was like, and then later on in talking about the specifics of the monument, it said, "I'm amazed at what he has done," referring to the sculpture. "I greatly fear that he has done it at a loss of himself. The work seems to be carrying the idea and message splendidly. The soldier boy is typical of the young manhood we had at the front. His face bears the wholesomeness of our American youth and a resolve and purpose born of clear thinking and high ideals. The symbolic use of the angel has greatly added to the dignity and significance of the monument." So, looking at the monument itself, you see the angel staring, and then the doughboy looking off at another direction. It has caused some questioning as to exactly what was going through their mind, but I think we really just want to look at it, the innocence of the statue itself. A little closer look at that of the statue, the doughboy looking off, and the angel wings protecting, if you wish, that doughboy. A little closer look at that statue. And then that article went on to say, "The angel's face seems to me to be a really beautiful and whole figure, to quietly modeled as to give the feeling of reality to the soldier." So then in that following Memorial Day in 1923, that's when the monument was unveiled, and this community made a very big effort of it. And the notables from throughout the state of Wisconsin came in to be a part of this celebration of unveiling the flag-draped platform. All that went into it. Mr. Heber from New York came in himself as a sculptor to be a part of this unveiling of the monument. So this was all on the courthouse grounds. The courthouse was there quite a few years afterwards. So this statue stayed on these grounds until the early 1950s, when it moved from this place to the new courthouse. In the meantime, of course, there were a lot of patriotic ceremonies throughout the years, using in the front of this statue, you can see the patriotism of most likely some kind of a speech, most likely Memorial Days, Veterans Days, as we continue to celebrate those, as we celebrated those days after the statue was unveiled. So here we have it, the picture of the monument. But then what we also see is the tablet. And the tablet contains more than 150 names of those young men who died during the war. So history is about people, and this plaque and this monument is about people. And we'll take a look at some of those people that that are listed on this monument. One is a Frank Talbot Montgomery, second lieutenant. He died in France October the 3rd, and that's why I gave you the dates earlier, because October the 3rd, a little bit more than a month prior to the armistice being signed. James Montgomery, again, deep regret to inform you that reported that Lieutenant Frank Talbot Montgomery, infantry, died October the 3rd. This was the telegram that was coming to all the families of all those on the marker. So this was pretty typical of how the news came into Wausau. The Montgomery family living up on Franklin Street at 620, and these telegrams came to all those communities, all those families through these months of the war. And Frank Talbot Montgomery, he's mostly referred to as Talbot, but Talbot Montgomery, second row, third from the right, playing football in the Wausau High School, very popular person in the community. He was a lieutenant, so he had a certain rank when he did enter the service already. This is his picture when he was playing football at the Wausau High School. Talbot Montgomery, of course, the Montgomery Post of American Legion eventually came to be named in his honor. And his memorial at Pine Grove Cemetery, this is his memorial. And a little closer look at the specifics of his family established this memorial to him locally at Pine Grove Cemetery. Of course, he did not come back. He is buried at the Meuse Argonne American National Cemetery in France. A beautiful cemetery. I have not been there, but I've seen certain views of it already. A magnificent place, and all those crosses are indications of Americans who died on very bitter battles in the Argonne forest at that time. So another person that I want to feature is Leo, and they're spelling his name wrong on this marker, Lewandowski. Leo, again, the same telegram received by his mother at 921 Jefferson, pretty much in the same neighborhood. Sergeant Lewandowski was born in the city, Company G of the city, very notable military unit in the city. And this is a picture of Sergeant Leo Lewandowski, who I'm always referring to the Leo Lewandowski did come back to be buried here in Pine Grove Cemetery. No, I'm sorry. He's buried in the Catholic Cemetery on Grand Avenue. He is part of his parents. He's buried with his parents in the Catholic Cemetery, and this is a note of his being here in the Catholic Cemetery on Pine Grove on Grand Avenue. So here we also have, I want to come to John and James Burns. A little closer picture, both privates. And again, the Burns brothers, John Burns, and again, the same telegram that John Burns was made the supreme sacrifice. The telegram is as follows, received. And so the article went on to say that this is the second son of Mr. and Mrs. Burns to give his life in the World's War. And then they also had a third son, Patrick, who was also getting, the article would say, was getting ready to leave for Europe. So a little bit about James. James Burns, working at Wilson Mercantile in the wholesale house there, killed in action May 28th. The family lived at 402 Randolph Street on the west side. And then also John, worker at the Wausau Box and Lumber Company. So, people coming out of ordinary factory jobs in the city, ordinary people coming out of whatever work they had to do and moving on and going to France. And then the article says, buried somewhere in France. That was all corrected in the early 1920s because in the 1921 they were able to come back to be buried in Pine Grove. In the Catholic cemetery again off of Grand Avenue, adjacent to Pine Grove Cemetery. So James and John Burns came back together to be buried in the Catholic cemetery on Grand Avenue. Again, the Burns Post would be named after them, in honor of them. Burns VFW Post would be named after the Burns brothers, both dying in 1918 in World War I. So again, this is, back to the monument. That plaque is equally important because it talks also about the people that were killed in France. Some died of disease here in America, but all these young people were died in the service of their country during the Great War. So with that, and just so that you can take a look at the plaque, those were just four names, really. The names go on and on. A lot of individual names. All those names, all those families received those telegrams. And I think and if you get a chance, especially coming on to November the 11th, the Armistice Day of World War I, it would be a good effort to take a look at this monument and see those see the young people that were killed or died during World War I. So with that, I turn it back to Ben. If there's comments or questions, we'll certainly be glad to hear those comments and questions. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. As Gary said, if you have any questions, now's the time. I guess something I can maybe start off, or at least just put the question out there. Do we know, you talked about, Montgomery and the Burns brothers being the namesake of the American Legion. Do we know how they landed on those? Because certainly, as you showed, there's a lot of, soldiers who died from this area. Do we know why those three were singled out as?
Well, the Burns family, the Burns brothers' father, Patrick, was also, I believe, involved with the Veterans of Foreign Wars office already. And with the I'm not sure exactly how the American Legion, that was also being formed after World War I, and I'm not quite sure, but Mr. Frank Talbot Montgomery was quite an influential person in the city already, and I think that he may have been that person. I
Yeah.
can't give you an exact
Oh
answer.
no, that's fine. It's interesting though because you do see, last week we talked about the Lysander Cutler post for the Civil War veterans, where they didn't name it after a local person; they named it after somebody. Whereas by World War One, not only are we listing the names of the dead, they didn't do that in the Civil War. They just said thank you for your service, and they're naming their veterans groups after local people. They didn't name it after the general that they
General
served under.
Pershing or something.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting to see that transition. And similarly, do we know? Did you come across anything about? Because obviously the statue is not specifically, that's not John Burns.
Right. I don't think that the sculpture
Yeah,
took
it's
it from a
an
specific,
anonymous soldier
Right.
type thing. Yeah,
an anonymous face.
yeah, and that seems to be kind of in line with
Right.
that. Well, I'll just double check here, but looks like Scott weighed in. I think this is back when we were talking about the parade to the depot, about where they might be, Washington Street down to the depot, the World War One veteran or the Navy draftees going to the train station.
Right.
That's probably true. Yep. Awesome. Well, I think that's the extent of the questions. So, yeah, we'll let everybody go here. Again, thanks for watching, and thanks, Gary, for the great presentation on, again, just like I think everything that we're going to be doing this month. Some of these statues that you may see as you're driving past and maybe never have given a second thought to, and now you know some of the history behind the courthouse stuff. And we're going to be continuing next week with the Hmong Lao Veterans Memorial as well. So again, we hope you join us for that. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week. And yeah, thanks for watching.